Welcome, everyone, to Mythstorie, a podcast about myths and history. I am one of your hosts, Bryant, with my permanent guest, Cammy. Cammy, welcome. What up?
Thank you, Bryant. Not a whole lot. We're recording on Mother's Day.
Right.
Yeah, but this will be up in 2 weeks. So
a little while, yeah. But happy Mother's Day. Happy belated Mother's Day. Hope everyone's enjoying it. Yeah, May's almost done at this point. It's been a hell of a year already. 6 months in. Can you believe that? Almost.
That's crazy. It
What's going on?
Seems like it was just the beginning of the year a week ago.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's been a good year so far, I think, for our show. We've been nailing it. Mystery every week. We pick random myths, legends, tales. Just talked about the Valkyrie. Before that, Grim Reaper. So lots of death. We got another one coming today, but this is a cool concept. I've been badgering Cammy about this for a while. We're going to talk about the mythical beings. Cammy, reveal it. Drum roll.
The Centaur.
Yay. Okay. Really excited. Centaur, just like the Valkyrie, I'm sure you've seen them, especially like Harry Potter features them. Percy Jackson, they're everywhere. They're in a lot of things, and they're super ingrained in today. In fact, when I started Googling, it was like, in the D&D rule book, the Centaur is the, and I'm like, no. Okay, no, I need the real air quotes.
Well,
Centaur.
tell us that. What?
It was talking about like the life expectancy and stuff like that, and I was like, just for, if you're making a Centaur character or something like that, which I thought was funny. But there's some cool stuff here. So, it's an ancient Greek Roman thing. I got some Medusa vibes from it because it's pretty darn old. But I know Cammy has a great story. Cammy, why don't you set up what you're talking about? Because you're talking about probably the most important Centaur, right?
I am. I'm talking about Chiron, who is sort of the father of all centaurs, although he didn't father any centaurs.
It's so weird. It's so weird. I'm really excited to talk about this. Yeah, my discussion's pretty fun today. But yeah, you're right. It's wild. Well, Cammy, you always drop a story on us, so please drop away.
Okay. And I used Ovid's Fasti in this, which is basically, Brian, are you familiar with the work?
I've seen it as like a cited works on Theoi and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. So I'm not that familiar with it, but it appears that he's explaining the months in this, which makes sense. So
yeah, which are super tied into mythology in general.
Although this has nothing to do with months. So in the days when Chiron was growing into old age, he decided to live on Mount Pelion, prized for its emerald grass and dense forest. Chiron was happy here, already having done so much in his long immortal life. To onlookers, he may have seemed strange, though not out of place. His long hair came down to his broad shoulders. He was always shirtless and very muscular, though he did seem more frail than he did centuries ago. But none of these features were what set him apart. Chiron's body at the waist began to look more equine. He had brown hair that matched his head, covering his lower half. But unlike a minotaur or satyr, he had two sets of legs ending in hooves and a dark brown tail, which always seemed to flick when he was thinking. He was very at home running through the woods with the fawns, his secluded mountain perfect for disguising his existence from the hordes of men who might do him harm. Here he sat and spent his days. His only counsel were visits from the gods and heroes. It was on a seemingly normal day the famous hero Hercules stopped in, on his way from his dangerous labors. He had just killed the Hydra, and was wanting company, and a kind and wise teacher to lend an ear. Chiron was eager. He had known little of adventure in his new days living in the mountain cave. As Hercules spoke of the great feat he had just endured, the centaur ran his fingers over the lion's skin and club Hercules had used in battle. As he spoke of the little crab biting at his feet during the final moments of battle, Chiron went to Hercules' quiver, and his feeble fingers slipped and knocked the arrows, still sticky with Hydra blood, onto himself. One pierced his foot, and he cried out in pain. Hercules rushed to his aid, and called the help of the mighty Achilles to come and comfort their teacher as Hercules gathered herbs. Surely an immortal could not die, but perhaps his pain could be eased. Chiron mixed the herbs into several tonics, but even after prayers were said and the cures were placed at his lips, Chiron was still shaking in violent fits. He could not stand or even lift his head by nightfall, and the two immortals comforted their friend as he laid there whimpering. After the day broke and still no relief, Chiron called to the gods to make him mortal, so that he might forget his pain. Zeus granted the request, but not without throwing his body into the stars, so that we might all be blessed to see this wonderful creature displayed through eternity in 14 dots of light.
Oh, it's
Aw.
like full circle.
Yeah.
Does Ovid? That's how he explains the constellation of Sagittarius, or is that kind of something you threw in? Is that what that was? Right?
Yeah, is it Sagittarius?
I believe so. That's what kept coming up for me.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay.
I think that Chiron, they say Centaur as the
Yes.
constellation. So it might be Sagittarius. That is a
Yeah.
centaur.
So like on a lot of things it would say like also known as or things like that. And I looked up
Oh,
the
yeah, that makes
etymology.
sense.
I looked up the etymology and I was curious. I want to know how much Sagittarius goes here, but Sagittarius kind of literally means from late Old English from Latin, literally archer or properly pertaining to arrows. That's from Etymonline, really nice little etymology website, which comes from sagitta, which is arrow. Which is probably from a pre-Latin Mediterranean language, meaning person born under Sagittarius. Properly Sagittarian is attested from 1940. So it looks like, I don't know, we'd probably have to go look at the OG text of Ovid to see what word he used precisely and maybe go from there. He might have used the word like Sagitta, we'd have to kind of see what, but they
I
could have.
didn't look at the Latin. I used Theoi,
Right.
and it was translated. So it was just the English translation that I used.
And he might have referred, the constellation may be referred to as like they would have said like Centauros or Centauri or something like that. It could have been, but so there's kind of a loose translation, and I think the connection between it kind of comes later, making the constellation specifically a centaur. So
he may not have directly called the constellation by name, because I think if I remember, it was like 7 times 2 for the stars or something like that. It didn't. I don't think it actually said his name or said the name of the constellation.
That's interesting. So the Centaur are really interesting. Again, I always knew there was some Greco-Roman stuff going on here, but they're quite old. Like I said before, I'm thinking Medusa here, and that's how old this stuff is. I mean, these guys are mentioned a very, very, very long time ago. We've got stuff from easily between 6th to 9th century BCE that references them. So again, the time of Homer, if not older, just like the Gorgons. And they're really important, but they're not as like there aren't hundreds and hundreds of centaurs. They're not kind of going out like crazy, and that's actually kind of by design. There's a story. So the Greek word is kentaur. Kenta. All right, hold on. Kentauroi. Okay, so you see that word taur, which Cammy, Tauros, bull, right?
Bull, yeah. I was confused by that too. I never thought about it, but
the translation is essentially bull slayer.
Oh.
That's what Centaur. I let's just say Centaur or Centaur. That's what it literally kind of means in the translation, according to theoi.com, which we can't speak highly enough. It's such a great website. It's theoi.com. If you just want to kind of go down a rabbit hole of really good Greek classical information, it's there. So the Centauri were invited to attend the wedding of their half brother Perithous, but became drunk at the festivities and attempted to carry off the bride and other female guests in the battle which ensued. It's not a wedding if there's not a battle. Most of the centaurs were destroyed. So, damn. They were said to have inhabited the region of Magnesia and Mount Pelion in Thessaly. It's a very kind of specific area, and they were always kind of like stuck there. They were born of Ixion and Nephele, who is a nymph, right? Or did I get that wrong? It was just a cloud.
Yeah, so it was a nymph, but then Zeus, because Zeus didn't want Ixion to sleep with Hera, so he made the nymph a cloud.
Right.
That resembled Hera, because I guess you can mold a cloud.
Zeus could
if
do
you're God. I don't know.
And so from that relationship, the centaurs were created. going back to Chiron real quick, who is perhaps the most important centaur. And it's funny you mentioned he wasn't really the father of the centaurs. He wasn't. His daughters, though, Theoi tells us, were the ones that took care of the children that came from Ixion and Nephele. So he was sort of a father to them in a
or a
weird
patriarchal figure. Yeah,
exactly. And his name means his translation is skilled with hands. That's what Chiron or Chiron means, skilled with hands. And he's kind of like the god of inventing and medicine too, I believe, or surgery. In fact, I think is the word that's used. So he was super handsy. I guess when you got 4 hooves, you're not worrying about those. They're doing their thing. You're just like, and you've got a table behind you that you can just kind of turn and put stuff. So you're super handy. But yeah, it's wild. Chiron is a half brother of Zeus. This dude's mega important. His Papa Kronos, the big guy, was getting in bed with someone. When Kronos, I'll quote Theoria right here. When Kronos's tryst with the nymph Philyra was interrupted by Rhea, he transformed himself into a horse to escape. Notice, and the result was this 2-formed son. So he was just like, "Oh, I gotta bounce," and then became a horse. And then
horses are fast.
but things still happened, and then boom, here's Chiron. But Chiron is a great teacher. You mentioned Achilles helping him. I mean, he was he's known as being extremely wise. He's probably seems like one of the best children that Kronos could have had. He's not known for doing anything remotely terrible. And yeah, he's skilled with his hands. He's a surgeon. He helped people. He's known as the wisest and justest. That's a word. So it's wild. I absolutely love that this guy is who he is and seems to be succeeding extremely well. And so it's kind of weird here, this episode, coming into the Centaur, you kind of have to talk about Chiron, but it's not like he's the oldest and wisest, but he's quite literally not the father of them. And the thing that I kind of get when it comes to the Centaur in general is they seem to sort of be, so they were created, we know how they're created from this sort of thing between Ixion and Nephele. And then they sort of ended up in this area of Thessaly where they just sort of lived their lives. And there's a cool explanation that some people have, and that is that there's this theory that when people who lived in the near area got in touch with, we're talking about beyond 10th century BCE, when they got in touch with these people of this area, and they might have been nomadic or just horse riders. If you think you're a farmer or someone who's spotting these people from a long way, they might literally look like people who are half horse, half man. With the man standing up tall, and you might not notice the horse, depending on things. Who knows? It's 10th century BC. So there's this idea, and we've talked about euhemerism before, which is sort of euhemerism is the idea where actual past events. So the past event here is someone in this area, a Mediterranean farmer, sees these nomadic riders in the plains, and he goes back and he's like, I saw these new people. They had the top half of a man and the bottom of a horse, because he saw him from behind. So that this is euhemerism, and then that story kind of goes on and on and on, and then someone's like, oh yeah, I can explain this. It's because of a cloud, and then the other guy would be like, isn't it because of Chiron? And he's like, no, that doesn't make any sense. So anyway, that's what's really cool. What's wild is we actually have a 16th century sort of corroboration that sort of helps this idea, and that is from Bernal Diaz del Castillo. He was a conquistador under Hernan Cortez during the conquest of Latin America, and he would later write an account of the conquest, and he actually reported the Aztecs had I'm going to quote Wikipedia, had a misapprehension about the Spanish cavalrymen. They too apparently also saw them as half man, half horse creatures. Again, I'm quite certain horses weren't indigenous to this area at this time. I remember there was that weird flip where like camels were in America and then horses were in, but then Pangea and plate tectonics and anyway. So they'd see these horses. That's new for one thing. And then dudes riding horses is crazier. So I think it's wild. You have centuries apart from these events, but there's this idea that could kind of explain it. When you're first seeing a horse, especially a man riding a horse, your brain kind of smushes them together and comes up with this explanation first. So not a huge like weight holding there, but it's really cool nonetheless that this happened in the 16th century as well. But going on kind of further, there is quite a mention of female centaurs in Greek literature and art. Centaur called Centaurides or Centauresses, of course. And there's other certain variations, especially in India. There's a few different variations. And Russia has a centaur-like half-human, half-equine creature called the pulkin, which if you look at some of the 17th through 19th century art, it's extremely looks like your stereotypical centaur. We also have, there's a cool diagram from the 15th century called the Zodiac Man, and it's actually a diagram of the human body. So it's supposed to be like a medical artwork, but it uses astrological symbols to inform the body. It's actually, the instructions are in Welsh as well, and it shows the importance of its astrology from a medical perspective. At least things were pretty well tied together for a very long time. And the centaur is depicted as the abdomen, which was really wild. And here the centaur is holding, I'll see if I can link, it's from Wikipedia, but the centaur, very stereotypical 15th century drawing, but he's holding a bow and arrow as well. So there's this connection for sure, especially by the medieval period with centaurs and archery and things like that. So really great. One fun thing I saw too from Theory is Lucretius, he was, I believe, a historian, a Hellenistic philosopher. From the time of 99 BC to 55 BC. He wrote in his 1st century BC poem on the nature of things. He actually denied the existence of centaurs based on the differing growth rates between horses and humans. He was like, at 3 years, horses are in their prime. They're doing their thing, but while humans are babies. And so I thought that this was extremely wild. I feel like you would have been killed for saying something like this. Like, centaurs can't be real, and then they'd be like, no, like, you can't say that. But I thought that was really wild that he posited this idea simply based on life, so that totally makes sense. Like, wouldn't that be really weird if like you have a centaur, it's 3 years old and its body is like horse prime, but the top is a toddler who's just like, like like pulling your hair and biting you, and it's like, God, but he's like zooming at like 80 miles per hour, and you're like, damn it. Get back here, Chiron. So, yeah, really fun story here. Chiron, I probably heard that before, but I didn't know this much, especially regarding invention and surgery, and just how he was just rarely a grand guy. And poor Hercules killed him essentially, and that was his nephew, and that's just sad too. But yeah, the centaur, they're pretty damn old. My kind of nutshell explanation is that there were these nomadic people in the area a long time ago. The neighbors saw them and were like, whoa, this is it. And those stories formed and gave the ideas to make the art that we see today. But centaurs are extremely old. Chiron is extremely old. Again, he's one of the sons of Kronos. He is a half brother to Zeus. So I can't really stress that enough. But yeah, I hope you guys learned something new about centaurs. I definitely did. Cammy, excellent story. I think that was a really great way to show it as well, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up this episode, guys. Let us know what you think. Do you know a centaur? Can you refer them to us? Do you know any other myths you'd like us to cover? Let us know, mythstorie.com or mythstorie@gmail.com. Check out our link tree in the description. Remember, we're on YouTube, Twitter, all that good stuff. Let us know what you think. We love hearing feedback. But I think that covers it, Cammy. Would you like to add anything? Maybe a neigh. Do centaurs neigh?
I don't know. They have human parts. I doubt it.
Yeah. All right. Well, neigh or not, we will see you all next time.
Oh,
oh neigh.